Okay, first question is from Veronica in Quezon City, Philippines. Okay, Veronica. And Veronica says, how do I know when to change my relationship? Okay, so this is a good question because now that I'm telling you that it's okay to change friends, but then the good question is when? Is that like, is it the first mistake they make? You're like, no, I don't want to be friends anymore. Like, you don't want to be like that. What happens is you have to kind of see your friends over time. Why? Because everyone can have a bad day. Everyone could be going through something rough, especially this time of the coronavirus. There are going to be so many fights, so many arguments because everyone is home for a long time together. Which means that you have to kind of assess the situation, circumstance too. If you're good friends with them, you can find out whether like sometimes their dog died, parents are divorcing, broke up with their boyfriend, and you have to just understand those situations. But if you see when things are normal and regular and they're continuously bringing this negative vibe, putting you down worse when there's good news and bad news, and they're always trying to take your joy, if they're people that talk behind your back and it's a consistent thing, then you have to assess yourself at that point, right? You want to look in normal situations. Like I said, everyone has bad times. And you don't want to judge them from those times, but you want to see a consistency when things are normal and good, right? And when you have that, when you kind of see what's happening normally, what type of people they are, then you can make an assessment yourself and say, you know what? I don't know if my heart can handle this anymore, and I don't think it's healthy for me because a true friend wants me to grow. And if you can't grow, then you should move on. Right, and that's something that, so you have to kind of assess each situation. There's no such thing as on the fourth time, break up. Like, no, it's not like that. It's something you have to assess the real situation. Let's take a look at Eric from Kuala Lumpur. Eric says, what if I'm a better friend than my friends? Wow. Okay, well, let me tell you something very interesting is usually the people that suffer the most are the ones that are the better friends, usually, because they're the ones who put up with the most. They're the one. But one thing I do have to tell you is, if you want to be a good friend, this is one of the things that I will talk about later if we go into a deeper, longer talk. But you have to realize that in order to be a good friend, honesty and trust and honesty is a big thing, which means that you have to be able to tell your friends the truth. Their trust has to be there. Like when they're treating you badly. Like one thing is, you're not a better friend if you allow someone to keep treating you badly. You're basically enabling them to treat you like that. Why? Because you don't do anything about it. Which means sometimes we're causing those things to keep happening to us. Which means that in order to be a good friend, people have to treat each other in a respectful, trust, and good and loving way. And if people don't do that, you know what's going to happen, right? Then you're going to allow them to, and they keep treating you that way, which means it's partly your fault too. And that's why part of being a good friend is you have to have that trust and that honesty between each other, that you can say, you know what, I don't like it when you do this. And, it really hurts, it makes me feel like this. And if you continue to do this, I don't know if I can keep being your friend. If they keep doing this, right? And that's one thing you have to kind of make sure is that you're not enabling people to continue to do that to you, okay? Let's turn to Hi in PJ. Hi in PJ says, I feel emotionally drained after spending time with my colleagues, but I'm working closely with them. What should I do? Okay, so you have... What it obviously means is that your colleagues are probably negative, or they're putting you down, because the only time you're emotionally drained is if they keep taking from you. You're putting out, but you're getting nothing back. It's almost like a relationship like this, like in a hierarchy, where it's like they are treating you like this, right? And when they keep treating you like this, they're taking from you and you get nothing back from it. Now, there's a couple things that you can do, and this might seem a little bit harsh, but two things that you want to assess your social situation with your colleagues too is, number one is, the same thing I just said is, are you enabling them to treat you like that? Or do you just take everything? It's not a good thing. To just, to just allow them to keep treating you like that, that is not a good thing. And you need to this job that you have depends how much it's worth to you too, because sometimes if it's too stressing, it's really bad for your health, it's better to change jobs. It is. Or ask your boss to change your team. Or ask your boss to move you to another place. Because you got to understand is your job is such a big chunk of your life. Right? It's like 40 to 50 hours of your week. You're basically, you're up for 168 hours. A third of your time is in sleep. Right? So if a third of 168 hours is like 60, it's like 50 something hours is in sleep, which means what? You have like 100 left. Half of that is in your job, which means what? You have to really be responsible. And I suggest that you first confront. Confront, not saying like, hey, you stupid, why'd you do this to me? It's like, hey, there's a couple of ways you can do it is, first you have to tell them what the problem is, and then you have to tell them what you feel, like how you feel from how they treat you. And then the third thing you have to tell them is, if it continues, what are you going to do? Right? It's like, hey, you talk down to me whenever we're working, you always talk down to me, and it makes me feel belittled, and I don't even want to come to work anymore. And if it continues like this, then I'm going to request to change to another team, or I'm going to talk to the boss about this situation. Right? And this is, don't think about like primary school. Primary school is like, ooh, you're telling on him. Ooh, like this is not high. This is your life. You got to do it in a mature way. If you're not able to do it and it's too difficult to do that, I'm serious. It's for your health's sake, it's better to get another job if you can't do that. Yeah. But what I would do is I would confront first. And this is something that's very difficult for a lot of people in this generation, is to confront people. This is why a lot of people are stuck behind their phones. Yeah. We say sorry through our phones. It's really weird. Shouldn't be like that. All right. Thank you, Hi, for your question. Let's go to Ganesh Ko. Genish Ko. Okay. And it says, how can I reject toxic friends in a nice way? If your friends are toxic, basically, like, rejecting means like, I don't want to be your friend anymore. Or you could do it naturally, and when they invite you out, you just don't go out with them. Because that's not, like, I'm going to tell you one thing about friends. One thing you need to realize about friends is we hold friendships a little bit too high. I'm going to be honest with you. Like when they're not best friends. The friendships we have, don't hold them too highly. I'll give you an example. In your life, friends are the things that always change. They always change. Example, when you're in elementary school, you have a best friend. Then you go to high school, friends change. Then you go to university, friends change. Your majors are different, friends change. Then after you graduate, friends change because you go to a company and you have friends at that company. Friends change. Then you get married, your friends change. You have friends that are married then. And then when you have kids, friends change again. Friends come and go. Family's there all the time. You can't escape family, right? But friends are things that always change. And sometimes you just naturally drift apart. And if someone is very toxic, you either confront them and say, hey, this is how I feel about the situation. And if they still don't listen, then whenever they ask you to go out, just say no. It's like, sorry, I can't go out tonight. I'm sorry about this. And eventually you just drift apart. But personally, I think it's better to confront first and say, hey, this is how I feel. And they'll be like, oh, okay. And, give them some time to change. Okay? But it's something that we have to, when it comes to toxic friends, first is they should know that they're toxic. Because if they don't know, maybe they'll never change. And then you have the people that know they're toxic and they continue, and you have no choice. But you have people who are really trying, and then you guys can keep working together on it. Okay? So rejecting them in a very nice way. Nice doesn't mean like, oh, hey, you're really cute, and you're good looking, and, and you have a nice body, but, right? It's not like that, right? Being nice also means that you want to be truthful to them. That's being nice, right? If you're not nice, is you kind of lie. That's, lying is not nice, right? You tell them, hey, this is how I feel. And when you do this, this is how I feel. And if you continue to do this, I don't think I can hang out with you anymore. And if they get the point, then they'll say sorry and they'll try their best to change. And if they continue to do what they do, then you've already told them a couple times, and it's just better to break off from it. But if you really like your friends, even though they're toxic, one of the big things you should do is tell them exactly how you feel. And if they really respect you, and if they really love you and like you, and they trust you, they should be making efforts to change. They should be, right? And that's something that we have to, we should forgive too. And it gets to a point where if it's too much for you, it's better to break off. Yeah. And that's when you tell them honestly, like, hey, it's just too much for me. I don't want to hang out for a bit. It's like friends like breaking up. Like, hey, can we take some time off? Yeah. Let's look at Hannah. Hannah Vere Bata from the Philippines. Is it okay to forgive but not to have reconnection anymore? Am I being a bad friend? No, that's what I was gonna. That's a great thing actually. Forgiveness means that you forgive the fault, right? So there's nothing between you, but it's like you have to think of, like, I'll take a very extreme situation is like your husband cheats on you, Hannah. Yes, you can forgive, but doesn't mean that you're married again because the trust is broken, right? Those are two different things. Forgiving someone and regaining trust are two different things. I forgive you, which means that, yes, you did wrong. I forgive you. This is something that let's break through. But now let's deal with the trust that you broke. You have to gain trust back. Right? So you have to split between, like when some people think that I forgive you means that, okay, we can love each other more and there's absolute trust and I love you and I'm going to be kind to you and do all these other different things. That's love. No. That's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is of the action they took. I forgive you because you did that to me. I'm still hurt though, but it doesn't, but I forgive you for it. But when it comes to trust, they have to restore it, right? The restoration has to happen, right? You can forgive someone who's stolen money from you. Right? Well, it's like even when you go to, like, it really depends also how big and how small it is. If it's a very big sin between two friends, a huge one, like someone stole the other person's girlfriend or boyfriend, yeah, it's huge. You can forgive, but you may not want to be friends with them anymore. Yeah, and that's okay. Yeah, it's okay. That's okay because there are such things as things that may not be very forgivable. Yeah. Or not forgivable, like regaining the trust. So that's something that you do need to split. Just because you forgive does not mean that you're best friends. It doesn't mean you're restored back to the original relationship, especially when it's really, really bad things. When it's small things, it's very easy to cover, right? It's like if I steal a chocolate bar, you might just say, you can have it this time, whatever, because it's small. But when it's something really big, then it's hard to recoup. Right? It's hard to recover. And that's when it has to be gained back. So it really depends on how big or how small the sin is between the two of you. All right. Oh, Ganesh has another question. Thanks for answering my question. Oh, no problem. May I also ask, how can I prevent from being too emotionally reliant with close friends that are of the same sex? Emotionally, okay, so you're talking about like having a best friend and like you have to have them there and whenever you're going through something, you're going to rely on them. One of the things that we have to learn, especially as we're growing up, is when you're a baby, right? When you're a child, you're very dependent, right? You're dependent upon your parents. When you become a teenager, you become what you call, you're trying to break and become independent, but you're not really independent, but you want to be. It's what you call something like codependency, right? It's really weird because it's like, no, Mom, I don't want to do this. Why do you keep telling me I can't go out? I want to go with my friends to watch a movie. But can you give me 50 ringgit? Right? It's like you can't be completely independent. It's impossible at that point. So what happens is you're trying to break free from the dependency. And then when you get to university and you get to your career life and you start to move out of your house, what happens is this is when you start to become interdependent, which is like the best stage you want to get yourself to. And I'm going to tell you this straight up because it works for me is a lot of times in the past when you're so dependent upon someone is because whenever a problem, anything happens, the very first thing you do is go straight to that friend. And that is not healthy to do all the time. We probably have to do another bubble talk on this, but one thing I do tell you is you have to learn how to first deal with your emotions yourself. I'm serious about this, which means for myself, it's prayer. I have prayer. One thing is about prayer and meditation, they say, this is scientifically proven in research that when you pray, your heart rate slows down, blood pressure goes down, depression goes down. Like people who pray and do these things, all these emotional things go down. And what happens is you begin to think much more. The executive part of your brain works, the frontal lobe. And what I'm telling you is you need to start learning how to deal with it first with yourself. Talk about it. Think about it. Write it down. These are some good healthy things. Breathing exercises and writing things down. Write it down. Your emotional things. Learn how to deal with it. And then when you get to yourself to a certain point, then you could talk to your friend without talking like this. And then he said, oh my gosh. Like, you know how that is. It means that you haven't dealt with it yet. You're going straight from that emotional moment, straight to the phone saying, and your emotion is, you haven't even settled yourself down. Before you talk, you have to process what just happened. Why? Sometimes it could be because of you. Sometimes it's because of them. Sometimes it's not because of any of you, but because of the situation and circumstance. And this is something that when you calm yourself down, you're going to be able to look outside of the situation and see, what am I dealing with right now? And that's why in those situations, for myself, it's about prayer or meditation. Calm yourself down and look at the full situation. Learn to deal with at least bits of it yourself first before you just start pushing it onto other people. Because I'm going to tell you right now it is draining for the person listening too. It is. Because remember when we talked about signs of a good friendship is their reaction to bad news. It's to carry the burden together. It is a burden you carry together. Right? So before you put the full load on someone, you have to put the load some on yourself too and say, okay, what is the real situation going on? Cry it out. Cry it out. Talk about it. What's going on? Put on some nice meditation, Zen music. Calm yourself down. Write your feelings down on a piece of paper or even say it out loud. There's a big difference between saying it and keeping it in your mind. In your mind, it goes nuts. Like you can go to like a level 1,000 in your brain and you just keep crying. Let it out because when you hear it, you'll know how ridiculous it sounds or if it's reasonable or not. Okay, so especially at that, for those people who are close to you, definitely try to learn how to take some of the load for yourself because it's your problem, it's your responsibility, and take as much as you can, figure it out, calm yourself down, and then when you get yourself to a certain limit, like, let me ask what they think, but at least you'll be at a calm situation at that point, right? You don't want to get too codependent on someone. Okay, thank you for the second question. Tan in KL. Tan says, is the Lord God the only trustworthy mediator in our relationship with people, or are other people okay too? How do we know who is trustworthy? Okay, good question. I'll say yes and yes. Is the Lord God the only trustworthy mediator in our relationships? And the answer is yes, because he's not going to make a mistake. However, people are okay too, but not anyone. It has to be close friend that you trust and the other person trusts too. Because when you talk about mediator is both sides like them. So imagine if I'm married and me and my wife are here, and then we have really close best friends here. It might be that wife I can talk to and my wife can talk to. And that person comes in to mediate between both. But it has to be someone that both of you trust. Yeah. And yes, people are trustworthy too. But you have to make sure they're trustworthy. How do we know who is trustworthy? Well, look at all the different signs of a good friendship. Like the things love and truth, reaction to bad news, reaction to good news, talks in front, not behind, and forgives without grudges. And, you have to realize that you guys will know when you have a really, really like a BFF, right? Someone very close to you, or it doesn't even have to be a best friend. Right? Because sometimes best friends are too emotional, you're too attached to them. But you're going to at least have someone you trust between the two of you. Like, this person's reasonable, and the way this person thinks I like, and this person can help us in that situation. Right? So, I definitely, when it comes, literally speaking, the only trustworthy mediator is God. Obviously, right? Because it's perfect. But during this time here, you need someone who has that voice who can talk to you and say, maybe you should think about it a little bit differently. Oh, that sounds a little bit unreasonable. Oh, really? Yeah, don't you think it's a little bit, oh yeah, someone who can kind of let you see with reason. Yeah. So yeah, having people there, having a good friend there is good too. Like having a best friend to vent is good, but when it comes to mediating, it's much better to have someone you trust that's good at mediating between the two of you. And sometimes when if you're at church, sometimes you have a pastor, minister, someone who's very good at that you trust that can help you out with this. When it comes to like in your work, you can have a colleague that might not be best friends, but at least they are upright and they have so much integrity that both of you trust them. Right? They're not someone who like just tells everything to everyone else in the office. So you can trust people. It is an absolute. Yeah, you can. It doesn't mean like, oh, you can't trust anyone. No. There are great mediators out there. They will make mistakes, but because you trust them, you understand. Okay? Well, it looks like there are no more other questions today. Great questions today, by the way. I'm very grateful that all of you have come today. It is the end of today's Bubble Talk. I hope you guys can join us again next week and have a wonderful bubble tea or coffee or whatever you're drinking, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye. Hey guys, thanks for watching. This is Sky. Make sure you click subscribe, obliterate that like button, leave some comments, and support us on Patreon. All right, catch you later.